Hello, I'm Jyotika. Welcome to Excelling Psychology. This is my third video in the predicted series for 2026. We've already looked at approaches and biopsychology. Today I'm making a video for issues and debates. Because for research methods, there's no point of making a video. Research methods are very diverse and there's nothing to predict. Any scenarios, any questions can come. Okay. In issues and debates, students often struggle a lot. So, maximum requests I get for approaches and issues and debates. So, as always, my disclaimer at the beginning, these questions are not guaranteed to come. That's why they're just predictions. Based on an analysis of past papers, I will explain to you why we can expect that these questions are more likely than others. And also, I will, as always, give you suggestions on how to write answers. So, I'll explain to you how to decode the questions, how to decide on a structure, and what content to cover. Everything we will go through in this video. If these questions don't end up in the paper, you have nothing to lose. It's a good review of whatever you have done so far and good to learn about exam answer writing strategy. So you can take this lesson with a free mind. It's not going to waste your time in any way. This lesson is meant for UK AQA students because it's based on an analysis of the UK past papers. In case you're watching for Oxford AQA board, this is very useful to you too because even you have similar issues and debates questions coming up for your paper, though this is not a predicted one for you, but a very good review or revision lesson for you as well. Okay, before I begin, just want you to know that I'm a private tutor for both GCSE and AQA, A level psychology, I'm sorry, for Oxford AQA as well as for UK AQA. So, in case you're looking for classes, my contact number and email ID are available in the description box and pinned comment below. I also sell resources for your course, such as essay packs, past paper solutions, model answers. So, if you're looking for those, my store link is available in the description box and pinned comment below. Having said that, let's begin by looking at what questions we expect this time. The first question we can expect this time is from the holism debate. That also very direct MCQ type of question. Now, why we are expecting this? Holism did not come at all in the 25 paper. It is one of the core debates, reductionism versus holism. So if it's been entirely skipped in 25, we do expect it to make a comeback. Like 2 years skipping becomes too much. That's why. So ahead also we'll be looking at holism and reductionism questions because it's been skipped, so more coverage. So one way in which we can expect it to get covered is like a very specific question like we are seeing here MCQ form, and one could be a more general descriptive question. Okay, I have explained in both my past videos how you should approach MCQ questions. So let's revise that again and let's answer. Like many of you would be thinking, what is there in MCQ to strategize? Let's just mark the correct answer. I recommend using a strategy nevertheless because these are what I will call easy marks. Losing them would be a shame. So definitely use a strategy that helps you guarantee that you're giving the correct answer. Okay, first thing is without reading the response alternatives on your own, bring to mind what can be the answer for the question asked. So, independent of the response choices, think of answers. Okay, and after you've done that, just match what you have thought about with the response choices and see, mostly, if you've learned well, what you've thought about in maybe a little different words will be there in one of the response choices. Otherwise, you have already understood that you've gone terribly wrong. You don't know much about holism. Maybe you can come back later. After you've done that, after you've matched with the correct response choice, use elimination just to be doubly sure that you're marking the correct answer. Consider why the other response choices are not correct. That will give you 100% confidence that what you are thinking about is the correct answer. Okay, so which of the following best describes holism? What is holism if we think about from what we have learned? Looking at the whole, looking at the complete picture instead of breaking down into individual components. So, this is what we can independently think of. Maybe you've learned a little different definition, but something similar to this must be coming to your mind. So, after thinking of this, look at the response choices. A. Behavior is explained by breaking into parts. B. It's explained by using biological factors only. C. It should be understood as a whole. D. It is controlled by unconscious forces. The first thing we thought of is it is a whole. So we are pretty sure this is the right answer. But just to like reconfirm, we'll eliminate the other options. In practice, it takes barely a few seconds because I'm reading out loud, it's taking me more time. So don't think that this is an exhausting strategy, it's not. Okay, behavior is explained by breaking into parts. This is something that reductionism would say, not holism. So we can be sure this is not the right answer. It's explained by using biological factors only. This is something the biological approach would tell us. It's not even about issues and debates. Also, reductionist, really, like biological reductionism. Behavior is controlled by unconscious forces. This is something that the psychodynamic approach would tell us. Again, not an issue and debate. So now, having made sure that the other response choices cannot be correct, we can confidently mark C. In the paper, all you will have to do is shade a box which is next to C. Right now, I don't have a box here, so I'm just writing the correct option. That's it. We don't need to give any reasoning for the choice. Same way we will approach 2. The strategy is going to be the same. I'll just explain to you why we're expecting this question. The question is which of the following is an example of free will? In 25, determinism appeared, but free will did not appear in the sense that one side of the debate was assessed, not the other. So, by that logic, we expect this time the other side of the debate will come. Now, same thing to do. First, let's independently think of what's free will. It's about agency, it's about having control or choice over what one is doing. So, that's the what I can think of. Then I look at response choices. A person behaves aggressively due to high testosterone. Okay, they've given specific examples, but whatever matches with my concept of agency or choice or control, that will be the correct example. So now that I see the option, I can move ahead. Sorry. Next is person chooses to revise for an exam despite distractions. Third is a person develops a phobia after conditioning. And fourth is a person imitates aggressive behavior from others. Okay. Someone's choosing to revise, see the keyword here, despite distractions. Agency, choice, control, I'm seeing in this example. So I feel this is the correct one. Still, let me rule out the other possibilities. Person behaves aggressively because of high testosterone. So here it seems it's not his choice to behave aggressive. His natural hormonal levels are making him aggressive. Biological determinism, the opposite of free will. Person develops a phobia after conditioning, environmental determinism. Again, is he choosing to become phobic? No. Some pairing or association is happening in the environment, or maybe some operant conditioning like reward punishment is happening in the environment, so he's becoming phobic. Classic environmental determinism. Person imitates aggressive behavior from others. Again, is it a choice? No. It is mere exposure, like in Bandura's theory, we have seen exposure to modeling. So, again, environmental determinism. The person gets influenced by outside models and imitates their behavior. So, now I'm fully sure the correct answer is B because only that is about choice. So, I can just write below B. Let's come to the next one. Okay. Now we have a description question, which I think by now you know why this question is expected. As I told you previously, holism, reductionism was glossed over in 25. So it was not in glossed over, it was just not there. So what is not there is expected to come. Also in issues and debates, the difference type of question like holism versus reductionism, difference between them. That is highly expected. One or the other question is directly about a difference between the two sides of the debate, because that's what issues and debates are about, the differences between the two sides. So, given that this was skipped in 25, plus a difference question is definitely expected in issues and debates, this is the likely one to come in this level. Okay, I'll just make some space here. Also, I forgot to tell you, I don't think I'll be uploading this on my website. So, in case you just need to look at all the questions, you can take a screenshot for reference. If you need to look at the questions before listening to my answers, you can just pause the video and look at them. Also, after writing every answer outline, I will just zoom out and show you the whole screen so that you can take screenshots. We have to make outlines here because I'm not having so much time to write the full answer, but I'll make a comprehensive outline on which you can develop your answer. If you need to see how to write full answers, you need model answers. I've covered issues and debates previously also. You can watch my past paper 3 video for it. And in that, you can see fully written model answers, exactly how they should be written in the papers. You can learn from there. Today, I'm a little short on time and I have to explain many things, so I won't be able to write fully. See, the key thing when it comes to difference type of questions is to draw direct contrasts. Most students will have a habit of, they'll define and elaborate holism separately and then reductionism separately. So, what is the contrast being drawn does not become very clear. It's like in your mind, you think you directly have to have both the sides of the debate go on opposing each other. That's what you need to do. Okay, so how you can do that? You can use terms like whereas, in contrast, as against this, and I'm sure many such phrases are coming to your mind. In opposition to this, not necessarily you have to write this way only, but just facilitates your thinking if you think in these terms. So this sort of language will make it easier for you to put down your points. Okay, so one thing is this, keep drawing direct contrast. Another way of thinking about it is in a statement in which I'm giving a difference. Let me begin with reductionism is dash, whereas in the same statement I have to write holism is dash. So this sort of a template you can form in your mind. Instead of thinking first for 2 marks in one paragraph, I'll only write about reductionism. Then in next paragraph for 2 marks, I'll only write about holism. Think in this template. That'll make a beautiful answer. Okay, so before we write, we can just brainstorm. Holism definition, reductionism definition can be directly contrasted, definitely. And any example can be contrasted. So 2 plus 2, 4 marks. Like 2 points of contrast, each point is worth 2 marks. So we can think of it by 2 by 2. I think that's the easiest way to go about it. So let's see. I'll make the outline. So in my mind, I'm thinking the first contrast point is the definition of the two. So how I would put it is, okay, they've given holism first, so I'll try to give it first in the answer, then reductionism. Holism studies behavior as a whole as combination of factors instead of breaking down into factors. So interaction of factors. In this point only, I'll put a semicolon and I'll write whereas. Reductionism breaks down behavior into component parts and then looks at the influence of individual parts on behavior. I hope now that you're seeing the concrete point in front of you, you can understand what I mean by direct contrast. Okay, to emphasize more, I just want to show you behavior as a whole, breaking down behavior, interaction of factors, influence of individual factors, direct competing points, direct contrast. That is what we mean. Okay, in the same way, we can pick up any example. I think disorders or mental health examples tend to be the easiest. We can pick up those. Otherwise, any general behavior like intelligence, personality, anything you can take. So, for example, holism explains depression as interaction of chemicals like genes like 5-HTT, neurotransmitters like serotonin, and environmental influences like stressors of unemployment, relationship breakdowns. You can give like a diathesis stress model, also a biopsychosocial model, also you can name it directly. Only I feel that much scope is not there just for 4 marks. And here only I'll put a semicolon, whereas reductionism selects one of these factors. For example, short alleles of 5-HTT and investigates that their role in depression. Okay, so this is how it needs to be written. Because the points are lengthy, of course, because direct contrast is there, the points are not as simple as we have for non contrast type of questions. So, easily 2 marks will be allotted for each point, and totally we get 4 marks because there are two such points. Let's move to the next question. The next question is about social sensitivity in research, the ethical type of issue and debate which we have. Now, why would we expect this? It was not tested in 25. So, again, a question that was skipped. Of course, it's important. But the thing with this is they just don't take it as a full essay like they take the other two sided debates because they just see more scope in that. So, given that it was skipped in 25 and that it does not come as full essay question or even a detailed question for that matter, looking at past trends, we can expect this time a simple 2 marker on it so that they don't skip it for a second year entirely. Might come as MCQs also, we never know. But in some small form, we expect to see it in the paper. Okay, what would we write for 2 markers for social sensitivity? I think by now you've got the hang of it. These type of straight off descriptive AO1 questions, like explain is AO1, and just 2 marks, 2 points. Definition, example, or definition, elaboration. That's all. Nothing more can be done. So I'll quickly make an outline. See, what's the definition of social sensitivity? Considering how psychological research can influence individuals or groups that it is about or it's which it's targeting in the population, right? And an example can be, say, gender based research. So, for example, existence of hysteria, I forgot now what it's called, I think conversion disorder, or for that matter bipolar disorder is being studied. So not bipolar, borderline disorder, but borderline personality disorder is being studied in females, or conversely antisocial personality disorder is being studied in males. And some claim is being drawn that this particular disorder exists more in females or males because females are dramatic, for example, or males lack empathy, for example. These findings have implication for entire gender groups. So such research needs to be handled with sensitivity. So you can give any example like that. It can be from any of your syllabus topics also. Attachment, role of the father. You're lucky in your syllabus because this is for older students. You had role of the father. The new students got it deleted. And attachment again, maternal deprivation theory, attributing any failures of the child, even future failures, to the mother. You can include such things in social sensitivity for specific examples. Right now, just taking a very broad example, social sensitivity is important because, for example, stigma, discrimination, or any negative consequences can come about because of research implications. So, researchers should consider what they are publishing before publishing it. So, this is the first set of answers: MCQs, short answers, even shorter answers. Now, we'll come to the essay questions. So, let me just paste this essay question on the next page. I'm not having enough space here. So, now we have a situation based question which is from free will and determinism. Like, firstly, you can look at the question before the scenario, and let's consider why we can expect an essay from free will versus determinism. In 25, I've told you in the previous videos also, there was a strong application trend across papers. So, again, we can expect the trend to be maintained in some of the questions. Determinism versus free will has very good application. It can be highly applied to like real life situations. So we can expect it here. Besides, I told you free will itself was not tested directly. Last year, determinism was. So, for a more holistic or comprehensive question, we would expect something like this, in which both free will and determinism are being included. Okay, now let's read the situation. A psychologist is studying criminal behavior and concludes that individuals commit crimes because of differences in brain structure and genetic inheritance. Based on this, the psychologist suggests that offenders have little control over their actions and should be treated rather than punished. Explain how free will and determinism debate relates to this scenario. Refer to the scenario in your answer. First thing is to know the breakup of assessment objectives. AO1 is worth 3 marks in 8 marker with scenario. AO2 is worth 2 marks. AO3 is worth 3 marks. So it's the half of a 16 marker with the scenario. So that's why all the assessment objectives get divided by 2. Given that, how should we structure the answer? I strongly recommend one separate paragraph for AO1, which you can aim for, say, 5 to 6 sentences or even less. Even 3 to 4 sentences are fine, depends how deep your points are. For AO2, generally, I don't recommend number of sentences because I feel you just need to cover everything. You have to cover all the ground in the scenario. But if at all, you can think of, say, 2 to 4 sentences. Again, you might be someone who writes with brevity but comprehensively. So you can even aim for 2 to 3 sentences. For AO3, only 3 marks. 1 point should be enough. I always recommend don't sacrifice depth for breadth. So, one peel point, which amounts to 4 to 5 sentences, should be good. You get 8 minutes to write for 8 marks. And how you should think about the question, let me show you that also. Just keep on annotating as you go along. I forgot to do that, but let's reread once and I'll annotate. See, psychologist is studying criminal behavior. For those who have done forensic, lots of things will come to your mind, like say Ising's personality theory and all. Of course, you don't have to give any of that here, but you know immediately it's very relevant to determinism and free will. And then they suggest it's because of brain structure and genetic inheritance. I'm sure what's coming to all of your minds is biological determinism. So keep noting as you read. Based on this, offenders have little control, hard determinism, suggesting that they almost have no control. Extremist view is being taken by the psychologist. If she was soft, she would have said like a soft deterministic. She would have said that, okay, they don't have full control, but little control is there. She's saying, yeah, they have little control, meaning she's trying to say it's hard determinism. And that's why she also suggests that they should not be punished. So she feels there's zero agency, because when we would punish, when we would feel that the person has choice, they will learn from punishment and they'll try to change their behavior. But she's seeing no scope in that. So she's absolutely rejecting punishment and suggesting treatment instead. So we can see clearly she's on the side of determinism. As we go along, we notice that yes, we can give specific types of determinism, like I've pointed out, we can link them also, though not compulsory. If you feel it's too short, like only 8 marks, and you can't cover that much, that's okay. But if you feel you can cover it, definitely go for it. Biological hard determinism. Also, given that it's so much towards determinism, I think it would be very strong to give a weakness of determinism. Absolutely not compulsory, but if the peel point is the weakness of determinism, it will be a very balanced approach, because that is where, of course, in description also we'll be doing it, but we can show the free will side also, which is being neglected in this situation. Just my recommendation of how we should go about it. Now I'll make a full outline for you. So for AO1, I would definitely cover definition of determinism. I would begin with that. In fact, I'll begin with definition of the issue, the debate itself. This debate is about whether individuals have agency over their actions or not. If you want to put it more elaborately, whether behavior is controlled by internal or external forces, or whether people make their own choices. Then I would define determinism. This is the position that individuals do not have control over their actions. Rather, internal or external factors can control their actions. And then I would give examples of these factors. So, internal ones could be genes, biochemistry, external ones could be conditioning or modeling, like we saw before. Of course, many would say in Bandura's theory there's a kind of soft determinism because there are mediating factors, but still it's determinism. Same way, I would define free will. This is the position that people do have agency, they have choice over their actions, they are responsible for their behavior. Here, I'll strongly recommend writing responsible for behavior because it's highly relevant in a criminal scenario that they have given. And then again, just any examples of how people can exert free will. You can give a humanism example, like humanistic approach or existential approach. So, for example, Rogers has argued that people have choice over how they want to grow, how they want to show positive growth, or existential psychologists have even suggested that in the worst of circumstances, at least how to think or what emotions to experience, that much choice people are able to make, though they can't change the situation. So this will suffice easily for 5 to 6 sentences, and I feel this much is enough for AO1. Coming to AO2, we just have to explain the situation and link to whatever we've written till here. Here the question is the individual responsible for their criminal behavior or not? So this is directly coming from definition of the debate. If we apply it here, we are asking this question: is the individual responsible for their behavior? Okay, and then we can talk about the psychologist's position, because next we've defined determinism. Her position is coming under determinism. And then we can quote. When we are writing, we must quote from what she's saying. It's because of brain structure and genetic inheritance. So she's directly saying people don't have agency. Internal factors like brain structure and genetics are controlling them. If you've done criminal psychology, you want to name a few factors like testosterone or some genes, you can do that. You can also name parts of the brain like the prefrontal cortex. But I just feel the marks are too less, in my opinion, to get into that. So you can avoid it, you can just talk about it generally. And then, because I told you have to cover every grounds, because she believes in determinism, that's why she feels that they should be treated and they should not be punished, because she feels that they will not be able to learn from their punishment and exert control over what they do. Okay, so that way we are explaining whatever she's saying. Definitely, here only we can counter with free will, though this is not compulsory, but I make feel it makes for a good answer. How we can counter with free will is by saying something like not everyone would agree with this position. Free will supporters would say that people can still make conscious choices even if biologically predisposed to criminal behavior. So we can just add in that one simple sentence here. I feel it makes the answer better. Then coming to AO3. Like I told you, very limited scope is the only 3 marks. So I would suggest just giving 1 point for it, which should be the limitation of determinism. Peel structure. I can't explain the whole peel structure, but first we make a point. We just say like what is the issue here. Determinism is reductionist. So we are assuming that only biological factors can cause criminal behavior. That's the example or evidence we are going to give. Right? And then we have to explain. So, what is the problem if this is the case? The problem is that there are many examples of people having similar genetics and still not committing crime. Genetic factors are known only to be risk factors, predispositions, they are not guaranteed to make the person commit crime. So, somewhere what has not been accounted for is likely to be free will. That one person with the disposition makes a choice to engage in criminal behavior, the other person chooses to exert control and not given to the desire of criminal behavior. So, to link back, this shows us that determinism might not be a fully accurate position to take while accounting for criminal behavior. Just one, two things I want to tell you here. It's not compulsory to take this point. You can take any strength or weakness of determinism or free will for that matter. Second, it's not even compulsory to link back to the given situation. I just feel it makes the answer better, so I keep on taking examples from then linking them. But if you want to give a general evaluation point without referring to the scenario, you can definitely do that also. Okay, I'll just show you the whole answer once. Okay, so this is my outline for it. A very quick like brainstorming that I can do for other possible points. You can give a strength of determinism. It has practical applications in legal system. Like this psychologist has suggested that there should be treatment. So there are cases where offenders undergo medical treatment, therapy. We don't simply punish the individual, rather we try to reform their biology or physiology so that they don't repeat the behavior. Again, if you've done criminal psychology, you can give direct suggestions of how anti-aggression medicine might be used. Or nowadays, even genetic modification is made possible to some extent, like they're working on it. So these things you can give as strengths relevant to criminal behavior. You could also give a strength of free will instead, that free will help to hold individuals accountable, and in turn it will keep society protected from criminals. If we don't consider the free will position at all, in that case we are putting society in danger, because criminals will try to get away scot free with their crimes. So that's a very dangerous position to take from an application point of view. Okay, so these are some other suggestions of what you can cover. Coming to nature versus nurture. This we can expect again for 8 marks. I'll just tell you why. See, if we look at the 25 paper, it was predicted a lot that nature nurture will come, but it didn't. Idiographic came. I think it was idiographic versus nomothetic. That's why this time we don't expect to see it, because it came like a big question. Instead of that, the one which was predicted nature nurture, we can expect that to come. So it is overdue, because if it's predicted for 25 and still it didn't come, means the prediction still carries over. Also, of course, a very important debate, just like the others. Okay, something like cultural relativism was there, so we don't expect it to repeat and all, and also especially not for an essay or full essay. But nature versus nurture has very good potential in full essay. Okay, now how to approach this essay? See, this one, unlike the previous, has no AO2. So AO1 is worth 3 marks again, but this time AO3 gets the full 5 marks. So not much difference. AO1 again you can target 5 6 sentences, cover both sides of the debate. So same thing I can recommend. AO3 just make it 2 evaluation points instead of 1. Try to give one strength, one weakness for balance. Try to give both nature, nurture for balance. And of course, peel format always has to be followed. So points must always be deep. So these type of things. And nothing more to say. Rest of the structure you can follow from the last one. So EO1 keep it separate. EO3 keep it separate. Okay, so let's consider what EO1 points we can give. First, we can define the debate as a whole. What is the debate about? Is behavior inherited? Is it because of biological factors or is it learned? Is it because of environmental factors? Definition of nature, it's genetic inheritance. If behaviors are because of natural inheritance, then it is nature. Any example we can give again? To give specific examples, say depression is because of 5-HTT or schizophrenia is because of COMT or DISC1 genes, anything like that. For nurture, any learning factors we can give as examples: conditioning. For example, again, if we take depression, if it is because of abuse in childhood, ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, or if it's because of learned helplessness, exposure to inescapable situations, then that's nurture. So just keep the structure the same as the previous one, and you get 5 to 6 sentences, very simple. Okay, for EO3, you can give nature nurture separately. You can think about what's the strength of nature, what's the weakness of nurture. But that's something personally I would do for a 16 marker, because there I would get a scope of 4 evaluation points. So I would keep it very simple. Nature, one strength, one weakness. Nurture, one strength, one weakness. Here, because that much scope is not there. So what I'll prefer instead is taking the nature nurture as a whole, as a debate, and giving one strength of it and one weakness of it. So for the strength, it has resulted in an interactionist approach. Taken together, nature and nurture combined can better explain behaviors than either one alone. So again, to put it in a peel format, it has helped in interactionist approach can be the beginning. That's a strength. Evidence or example can be that it is led to, say, diathesis stress model, or it has led to biopsychosocial approach. That's a concrete example of what approaches it has led to here, because we don't have a scenario. We can't take an example from them. So we take a general example of what we've learned. In schizophrenia, for example, we have seen diathesis stress. If you haven't taken that option, you can just bring up depression, OCD, phobia, or any general behavior. Now, what is the benefit of it? For example, in diathesis stress, we would look at genetic vulnerability of schizophrenia, like something like COMT, DISC1, and environmental factors contributing to it, like say the mother, I forgot, schizophrenogenic mother, or expressed emotion in the family. You can give such specific examples. That will help us to understand a variety of symptoms. Something like genetic vulnerability, dopamine would help to understand positive symptoms, hallucinations, delusions, motor, catatonic behaviors. Whereas something like environmental factors would explain the negative behaviors like social withdrawal, apathy, those type of things. So link is, it's a very strong debate, very valid, like helps in comprehensive understanding of conditions. Can also link it to treatment or intervention. Helps to deal with problems better. Weakness also, I would take the debate as a whole instead of breaking it down. So if any one side is considered, it tends to be reductionist. I'm not talking exclusively about nature or nurture, either one. If taken alone is reductionist. And why it would be so? Because it oversimplifies behavior in this case. Human behavior is too complex to be attributed to either one. And we can include any specific example again, like trying to understand schizophrenia only through genes would not account for asociality or evolution, those type of symptoms completely. In the same way, looking at only the nurture side would not help account for catatonic behaviors or hallucinations, delusions entirely, like auditory hallucinations, for example, which studies have shown that actually there are brain problems. The schizophrenic cannot differentiate between their own voice and voices coming from outside. So, entirely, we would not be able to explain these things. So, the problem is many times in the nature nurture debate, psychologists can get passionate and they can try to take only one side, because of which their perspective can become narrow. You can link it to reductionism also, especially while doing research, because it's difficult to account for all factors. They might take only one, either nature or nurture. And in that case, it would reduce the validity of how we are understanding behavior. So, this is my outline for it. Other possibilities of evaluation point, if you're taking nature nurture separately, nature has a strength of explaining risk factors and predicting who is likely to develop some conditions and doing early intervention. But the weakness is it tends to become heavily deterministic and does not account for free choice, free agency. You can give any examples. Nurture is also similar. It also becomes deterministic in the same way, can be taken as a weakness for it too. But a strength is it helps to understand how stressors cause individual differences. If two people have the risk for developing a condition, why only one of them develops it? That is best accounted for by nurture. So that's it. That's all I have to offer for today. And I have covered predicted for those topics now which apply to most students. Then after this, paper 3 starts becoming specific depending on which option you've done. So I'll try to pick the popular ones first, like I did last year. Cognition and development is popular because it's a short option. Schizophrenia is done in almost every school. And then we can go to the little unconventional ones. Till then, keep watching these videos and revising. Goodbye, and I'll see you soon.